The decision to deploy US troops in Poland eventually changed the map of Europe, but it will not change the attitude or the threat from Russia. What new and more creative hybrid views of war we can expect from Russia?
Well, right now, Russia is rewriting the rules of war in the 21st century, and it's happening just off of Poland's eastern border. What we saw in Crimea when Russia illegally invaded and annexed Ukraine's territory and continues to occupy parts of Ukraine's territory in the east was something new. It's got this new name, hybrid warfare, and it is a mixture of traditional concepts of war, things we saw in World War II, with a combination of information warfare, so propaganda, political machinations, and bullets and guns and traditional kinds of conflict. Russia is combining these in a toxic soup that has destabilized Ukraine and has rejected the pillars of peace which have protected Europeans like Poland since 1989. That's dangerous. And the response now from the United States and NATO has been to say, okay, if there's a new kind of conflict, a new kind of danger from the East, what do we do about it? And what we're starting to see are real dollars, real troops, and real commitments being deployed here.
We have to have answer to that.
Correct. As an answer to Russia's aggressive actions towards Europe in general, towards Ukraine, and ultimately towards NATO.
And so, what's the answer?
Well, right now the answer is a mixture of things. For example, the U.S. Congress, as we speak, is debating whether or not to allocate $3.4 billion to a program with a long, wonky name called the European Reassurance Initiative. That idea is to reassure U.S. NATO allies, neighbors of Russia, that the United States cares about the security of this part of Europe. That will pay for the rotational deployment of U.S. troops and equipment and weapons, training exercises, pre-positioning of military materiel, all the things that you would need to defend the eastern flank of NATO. $3.4 billion is not a small amount of money, especially for U.S. taxpayers. But what we're also seeing is in the United States, taxpayers are saying, well, if we're paying money for this, what is Europe doing to defend itself? And this is where the policy debate stands right now. Because folks like myself are saying, well, look at countries like Poland. Poland meets the 2% benchmark that NATO has established, that all members should pay. Poland is meeting that. Poland has also put real money on the table to invest in real military capabilities. And so we're seeing a response from countries that feel threatened by Russia. What we would like to see is a more unified response from Western Europeans. If the United States is going to deploy one brigade here, let's see other members of NATO say, we're going to offer a rotational brigade as well.
Even from the eastern part, as Czech Republic, Slovak, and Hungary.
The opportunities are,
yes.
Well, the opportunities are great for solidarity and increased allied cooperation. That will send a message. It'll send a strong message to Vladimir Putin, and it will create a greater degree of deterrence.
Is NATO strong enough to defend us, or not strong enough?
Make no mistake, NATO is the strongest military in Europe.
On paper.
On paper and in the field. On paper and in the field. Pound for pound, you match NATO up against Russian forces, and NATO wins every time. Truth is, the Russians know this. They talk about this in their own strategic documents. It is their fear that in the event of a crisis in this part of Europe, that NATO will get involved. And Russia has said, we want to make sure that doesn't happen. So from a United States perspective, or from a NATO perspective, what we need to do is communicate to the East that there is strong allied solidarity and resolve to defend Europe. Again, that communication creates that doubt in the mind of an opponent and can increase the levels of deterrence to future conflict.